Hello everyone, welcome back to the new video, and this video is going to be really special because we are going to talk everything about blind XSS. So we're going to look at techniques, some real reports as well, and also in this collab, 0 Days aka Jackson is going to show you his custom tool that you can use to find blind XSS in bug bounties or in pen testing. So it's gonna be a really cool walkthrough and everything. Also, this video is only for educational purposes. Everything talked about in this video is to help people get aware of different kind of cybersecurity attacks so they can help secure the web. Okay, now let's get into the video. First, let's talk about XSS. We know that XSS is a client-side vulnerability where the attacker can inject malicious input into the application and the application reflects it back to the victim's browser without any proper sanitization. So basically, your malicious JavaScript code gets executed by the browser, and it could be any kind of code. This code can steal session tokens and cookies, and using the code, an attacker can log into victim's account that leads to account takeover. But this is a case of normal XSS like reflected, stored XSS, or DOM XSS. The main focus of this video is blind XSS, and blind XSS are a bit hard to detect because they're blind. You don't know if the payload executed or not. So there is only one way to find out if your blind XSS was executed or not, and we're gonna look at that. So first, let's have a look at this diagram that I created for you guys so you can understand blind XSS better. Okay, so I created this diagram to help you understand how blind XSS works, and it will really help you in visualization. So first we have is this feedback form. So let's understand the normal workflow of the application. So you logged into an application and you see a feedback form. Okay, we almost see feedback form in pretty much all the applications. So here users can submit their feedback, but it is not visible in the front end. It means these feedbacks are only visible to the people in the back end, like employees or admins, stuff like that. So let's say you type hello there, and this is your feedback. Okay, so this feedback goes to the backend, and this is the backend here. But the thing is, there is no proper input sanitization. Actually, there is a little bit of sanitization, but not a proper one. So it's going to remove everything, like every tags, like script tags, HTML tags, and everything. But it's only doing that for the lowercase tags. So if you type in script, it won't work. It will get removed. But if you type script like this, which is a bit of uppercase and lowercase characters mixed, it will work. So this is a case of bypass here. But right now our text is just simple. It's a simple feedback. So let's say the simple feedbacks goes to the backend, and then the backend, here we have an admin dashboard, and this admin dashboard lists all the feedbacks. So you can see all the feedbacks here just like this, and on each feedback we have a title here, and on each title the admin can click on it and just read the feedback. So that's how the application is normally working. But what can happen here is a user can also submit something like an XSS payload, something we have here. So this is the XSS payload. It says a normal text, and then if you know what this means, svg onload and then fetch. So in fetch we have attacker's site. So this is attacker controlled domain, and in this parameter we are trying to fetch the cookie of any user who is going to read the form. So if a user tries to read the form, it's going to get the cookie, session cookie of the user, and it's going to send it to the attacker controlled domain whenever it gets loaded. Okay, so obviously this payload is going to work in the backend, so not purely visible to the user. But if the attacker gets the cookie in their domain, the attacker will know, okay, that blind XSS did fired and it did work. So that's how they find out that blind XSS worked or not. Now, the payloads could be very different, pretty complex. Sometimes the user also hide their payload by base64 encoding it, and that's a kind of report actually we are going to look at next, so you can understand that as well. But yeah, in blind XSS, payloads can be really complex, so you should definitely check that out. List of payloads, try to enumerate the application, If you don't know how you can animate application for finding XSS, if you want to learn about basic XSS and a bit of more levels to it, I have created a video on how you can train your XSS muscles that you can see from the I button. Okay, so let's have a look at this report that is reported to rocket.chat. Okay, so the page located at this endpoint, live chat, has a cross-site scripting vulnerability, and this vulnerability, which occurs when user input is unsafely incorporated into the HTML markup, we know all that. The following report contains information on the XSS payload that has fired on this domain, subdomain. Okay, let's have a look at it. So we have vulnerable page here, and this is the referer, and then this is user agent, and these are the cookies. So this is the cookie to identify the user, and the blind XSS vulnerability here is used to fetch these cookies, and an attacker can use these cookies to log into victim's account. Okay, so let's have a look at the payload. This is the XSS payload. Let's first understand this. So first we have here is breaking out of the context. So basically closing the initial tag and then injecting our own tag. So the first here is, so we have an input tag here with an attribute on focus. So whenever the cursor moves to that part, it's going to execute. So we have eval, which is used to execute the code, and then we have this atop. So basically when the input is focused, all you want to do is decode this whole thing. And when you decode it, execute it. So what is this whole thing? This is actually a base64 encoded payload. And if you decode it, it's going to look like, as you can see from the screen, it says var a equals document.create element. So it's basically creating an element script. And then in the source of the script, it's going to add the attacker's controlled domain. In this case, assetcyber.xss.hd is the attacker controlled domain. And then it's going to append the script tag to the document of the HTML. So it's going to append that. And whenever the user focuses on it, moves a cursor on that particular element, it's gonna get executed. But if you notice here, we also have something autofocus over here. So basically it's going to autofocus user cursor over that part. So it's going to autofocus it and the payload will get executed. So here's the attack flow. What happens is this whole payload gets stored somewhere in the backend, okay? But because this is a blind XSS and the attacker doesn't know it, but this gets somewhere in the backend where the employee or the admins can see it. So when they open it up, it triggers the autofocus, and autofocus then triggers on focus. So when it's on focused, it's gonna execute this whole thing. And we just understood what this whole thing is doing. It's creating an element and just putting it in the DOM of the HTML. And it will load the script that is hosted on the attacker's domain. Okay, and when it loads that script that is hosted on the attacker domain, the attacker get a callback, and that's how the attacker know that it's a blind XSS. This report is not very clear, I would say. A lot of information is missing here, but we are trying to decode this. I mean, that's what we mostly do on this channel, right? A lot of reports we check out, they're good, bug is good, but not written good. So we try to decode it and try to understand it. So there is this image as well. It's a bit weird. So this is the text box, and I think when the attacker puts the payload or stuff, it goes back somewhere. So yeah, you can see this is the live chat. I think here you can talk with the support. So when you input your payload, it goes in the backend to the support team, and when the support team checks out your ticket and stuff, the payload gets triggered. Okay, that's a really nice one. You can definitely look for blind XSS in support chats or feedback forms or anything that you believe is going to the backend. Sometimes you also see forms if you want to buy a product and there is some custom pricing to it, so you can just fill a form and submit the form on their website. So on that part, you can also check for blind XSS because that form is going to someone in the backend, right? So look for functionalities like that, try to understand the application, and then it will be much easier to look for blind XSS. Okay, now that you understand how blind XSS works, how you can look for it, and how payloads work and stuff in blind XSS, now let's talk about tools.
Alright, so my name is Jackson, also known as 0 Days, and firstly, thank you to Medusa for having me on the channel. It's good fun to be here covering this topic. Blind XSS, I'm sure as you saw from this report, is surprisingly common. I found it in a lot of like Fortune 500 companies because there's so many variables at play with the backend and the logging systems. People just don't really think to secure it. So I did some digging a while ago and I was looking for labs on this topic and things like that, and I realized that they're really tricky to make, and so they don't really exist. So what I've gone ahead and done for you guys is I've created a blind XSS lab which simulates an advanced I guess, testing environment with an actual admin checking the logs in backend. So essentially what will happen is we will ignore that. Oh dear. Gotta love technology sometimes. There we are. So we are going to submit our payload. I know Medusa's already covered this. I'm just going to cover how my lab works. We submit our payload to the target site, which then gets sent to the log or backend. And then we have a Selenium-based bot automation that repeatedly checks that backend for the callback. And then it's going to go ahead and send that via a post or fetch request to our out-of-band listener, which I've created. It's a server I run completely out of my pocket, so it's 100% free for you guys. And I'm going to do some videos on how I made it at some point. It was quite the pain. I think it took over like 2,000 lines of code for this tool here, but essentially it's a replacement with some extra features compared to just using Burp Collaborator for this, and it's free, right? It's fun. So I'm going to jump into a demo of how you can use this tool to find and get proof of concepts for blind cross-site scripting. And we're also going to jump into this lab I've created. The link to both of these is in the description. You can, to set it up, just simply run setup.sh. So you would navigate to... Whoa, that is a big terminal log. I forgot to stop that. You would navigate to where you git cloned the directory, and then I don't have it here because I just built it from scratch on my machine. You would just do chmod +x setup.sh. Okay, and then you can go ahead and execute it, and it's just going to build the lab for you. All right, so let's jump into this lab now with Python 3 app.py. And it is going to serve on localhost on port 5000. And we can go ahead and navigate that. So we can see blind XSS lab by 0 days, submit a raw payload, the admin bot will execute it with real cookies. That's the important bit here. Our goal is, let me just check, yep. Our goal is to access the /secret endpoint by doing account takeover via cookie theft with blind XSS on this admin bot. Okay, if we try and just navigate to the secret endpoint, we get a 403 forbidden. This area is restricted to admin stuff. All right, so let's go ahead and authenticate into my tool. And you can see this is the dashboard. So we have some different payloads here that will automatically be pre-filled with your unique URL, similar to a collaborator URL in Burp Suite. And you can see we have all of the different options here. Okay. We also have an option to encode the payloads with URL encoding automatically and to decode them. All right. I'm getting some callbacks here due to some things I have running in the background. You guys can just ignore these. They won't be relevant to the lab as the cookies are old, but it was just from some previous testing. and they're going to repeatedly show up because I have things running in the background. So now, firstly, I'm sure as you already understand, if I just submit a regular, actually I don't need to break out at all here just because it is a lab. If I just submit a regular payload here, you can see that it will not execute, and we get payload stored, admin will review it shortly. So, as we know, this gets sent to a backend log system, and our admin bot, as we can see from these logs here, is making continual reviews of that backend, and it's taking a look at everything and opening what is stored in the logs. So we're going to go ahead and choose a payload. We're going to use the full exfiltration scripts. Just a note, if you're using this for bug bounty, I don't recommend doing that. If it's a pen test and you have explicit authorization, go for it. But in a bug bounty, you're going to want one of these stealth beacons because obviously you don't want to exfiltrate data. But this is just going to grab a cookie and some user agent data and all that. Okay, so we can go ahead and paste that in here and just click the submit button. And note the URLs do rotate, so if it's been a while since you copied it, you may just have to go back and copy it again. Not sure if this is an old one. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and clear this, and we're going to do it one more time, just because I am getting obviously false positives from some other stuff I'm running. Cool thing is you can verify it because you can see where the callbacks came from and the exact URL and the user agent, so you can see, you know, where your payload was actually triggered, which I think is a great feature if you're trying to kind of map out the back end of a system and obviously ascertain you know, how these payloads are executed, what the vulnerable system is. You can gather some good information that you can use in pen tests and red teaming engagements. And essentially the callbacks just poll the server every about 1 minute 40 seconds, and they just go ahead and check what has come in to each URL, and they use that to differentiate each payload. So for example, this will have an X, the image tags will come up as an I, etc., etc. So you can see the different payloads easily in this dashboard, and I'm pretty happy with the tool overall. So now we're just going to wait for a callback to come in, and we'll move on to the second part of the lab. All right, so we've got some payloads now. We can see some more came in, and we can see X for our exfil script here. And we can see that we have a domain, a URL, an empty referrer, a user agent, which we can see, as headless Chrome. So we know that this is our Selenium admin bot. We also get this session ID cookie, which we can go ahead and select. And now we can open up the cookie editor browser extension and swap out our cookie for this admin cookie. We can go ahead and save this and then navigate to the /secret endpoint. And we can see that we do indeed get a flag, and yeah, we're now authenticated in as an admin. So to go over some final features of the tool, we can obviously clear everything. We can also export everything to a JSON file for easy reporting. And in future, I'm going to integrate automatic reports, so it'll actually build out a report for you, just with, you know, a prompt that you can feed into an LLM or something like that. I am going to wrap it up here just for the purposes of time, but thank you guys for watching. If you would like me to cover a bit more detail on this, please check out my channel. I'm going to do some live bug bounty hunts on this and show some blind XSS on a few real targets. I'm just working on getting those videos edited. Yeah, I appreciate you guys for watching. Thanks to Medusa for having me on the channel. Have an amazing rest of your day, and peace.